exercise training is associated with increased prevalence of varicose veins to the balls, lowering testosterone. My friend, that is the first time I've heard of that. Oh man, I don't know if you're serious or not, or whether that's a serious remark, but I've never heard that before in my life. But yes, if you have varicose veins on your testicles, you might not be able to reproduce, because not only your testosterone goes down, but your sperm count goes next to zero if you have varicose veins on your testicles. So maybe you said that as a joke. I don't really know. I don't know if there was a previous comment that led you to that, but it is very much a serious thing. In fact, I know somebody, a colleague of mine, who's dealing with that, and they're trying for a baby and all sorts. So, yeah. Serious thing, man. Calcium, you're serious? Oh, there you go. Yeah. This is like crazy when I realize I have it. Oh, you've got it. Calcium, if you've got it, man, I'm not sure if you've been tested and whatever, but I'm not even sure how old you are, whether you're in the stage of starting a family or not, but maybe right now the testosterone is an issue. But later on down the track, your sperm count is going to be a big issue. Like when you get into your maybe late 20s, I don't know when people have kids nowadays. I mean, I was a dad at 27. But yeah, like it's a very, very big thing, man. Not being able to have a child is a big thing. And you think to yourself, it's not just the low sperm count, it's also how fit your sperm are, so can they actually swim? So in a lot of people's situation, the sperm count is so low that you can't even measure it. It's hard to extract them. And a lot of people go infertile with this. So you got to address it as soon as possible, man. Don't let it linger. And so you do IVF. There's like another technique. It's not just IVF where you take the sperm and you put it in. Like a sperm that is not fit that you put in is still not going to be good. There's other ways. Like my understanding of IVF is there's an egg and you just send like a whole bunch of sperm and the fittest one goes in, right? And there's another technique where you take one sperm and you literally inject it into one egg. I forget the term for that, but there's also that. But this colleague of mine, they're having trouble with that as well, because the very few sperm that he has are very, very poor motility, whatever the term is. I'm not a fertility specialist by any stretch of the imagination, but varicose veins can really screw you over, man. Depends on what stage of life and what impact you're most worried about. Maybe if you're a youngster, you're worried about your testosterone now because of lifting and whatever, but down the track, screw the lifting, man. Starting a family, that's the biggest problem. The docs just tell me to pay for IVF if I want children instead of fixing it. Yeah, but I'm probably not infertile yet, at least. Yeah, just look into it, dude. I don't know. A lot of these things, they need to be self-driven. Like the doctors, and even if you find a crappy doctor, man, like people who just lost their soul at some point in their career, they just don't give a shit anymore. They're just there for the money. But yeah, like get it looked at. Like you can freeze sperm, I guess you can freeze eggs, you can freeze all that stuff. I don't know how old you are, whether you're in that period where you have a partner or whatever, but yeah, just think ahead, all that stuff, think ahead. Like I work with obviously a lot of women in nursing, and so there's a lot of fertility issues, man. Like people are having kids now later and later, and it just fits into the bigger picture of how society is at the moment. Like everyone is prioritizing career and money, and they've got all these aspirations to do wonderful big things, but the key purpose, is kind of being left behind. And so now we're having kids in our late 30s. The eggs are poor, the sperm is poor, the fitness is poor, everything's poor. More and more children are being born like with learning difficulties and all this sort of stuff. And a lot goes into that, obviously. It's not just the fact that we're having kids later, which is a big impact. Like all of your risk factors go through the roof when you're having children, later and later. But there's a lot of stuff around, you know, we're more aware of it now. We're doing more testing. Um, but yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to cover there. Obviously, if you're 21, society frowns upon you to have a child because you're too young. You don't have a career. But biologically speaking, you are in your peak. Like you can't be fitter than that. Like you are fully formed as a female probably. You're not a child anymore. It's mentally you're pretty good. So there's a lot of things to balance there, and it's tricky. Like you know, I remember when I was going through that period, and you know, Soph and I were together for a while. Like we got serious at 20. So we got together at 23, although we knew each other earlier. We went out earlier, then we had a fight, or blah blah blah, all the immaturity stuff. But at 23, we sort of, you know, go back together, and by 25, the conversation was starting to be had. You know, and I had some family around me, friends who were starting their family, and so like two of my best friends, one's 4 years older, one's 2 years older, right? And so they're just slightly ahead in life, and they started having children, and I was like, okay, cool, time for me to think about that as well. And at the same time, my brother, he was also trying with his missus, and they were having trouble. So I was like, holy shit, like wherever I turn, people are having difficulties with freaking this stuff. It's interesting, right? Because when you're a kid growing up, everyone's like, you know, don't get the girl pregnant, like, you know, one night stands, all this stuff. Like you have to be really aware of what you're doing, wear protection, blah, 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 blah. And here we are on the other end of that freaking whole conversation, and we're trying to have kids and we can't. It's just weird, man. Weird. All right, 160. 160 on the bar now. Let me see what I can do here.